Well, ladies and gentlemen, look who we have on the show this evening. Kay, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you?
Thank you. I am well. I'm doing well. Thank you. I cannot complain. It's been a good start to the year.
How was your 2023?
My 2023 was a roller coaster, I have to say. Early in the year, let's start things off on a really positive note.
Sorry, I didn't mean
Er,
to.
no, it's good. It's all good, right? It's all like it's very important. It's very important, I think. The beginning of the year, my stepmother died. And then my father died 6 weeks after that, right? And then, so there was all of that, right there. And he died April 1st, and she died the end of February. And then there were services that we attended in my family. That part of my family is in Alaska. And so there was a lot of traveling back and forth. Um, and then, I feel like the summer was like what happened? I don't know. Um, but it all in all, it was, it was a good year. And I say that, and I'll sort of do a little postlude on the fact that my dad died. He was 95 when he died, right? Uh, the man was never sick ever in his life, right? He was a sort of fiercely involved in his community, and it just had deep, great passions in his life, right? And after his wife died, I think he was just like, yeah, I'm done. And he had Mexican food, rice, beans, tacos, 72 hours before he died. And then 48 hours before he died, he was up in bed reading the Anchorage Times, right? And then 24 hours later, he was in a coma. And then 24 hours after that, he was gone. And it was just like, you could not ask for like a better life and a better death. Like no sickness, no suffering, no nothing. He said his goodbyes. It's like all the things anybody could ever possibly wish for. So there was nothing tragic about my father's death or his life. He lived a beautiful, good, rich, full, long life with lots of love, and he died the way he wanted to. And it was really great to be able to say goodbye and all those things. So that's how my year began. And so in a huge way, it began with a tremendous amount of gratitude for life, you know, and the example that I had from my dad to really live it, right? Live it until you go. So I don't look at that as like a bad start to 2023. It was an intense start to 2023 with a lot of beautiful lessons in it. And so that's how it went. And I mean, and then so in terms of work, like it was a very slow year. It was a very slow year because I refused to take my traveling gear with me. Like I'm not gonna go see my dad, and then go, excuse me, I have to go record an audition. I just wasn't gonna do it. So consequently things were slower because if you don't audition, you don't work. But things picked up, like they do. It's a roller coaster. And so 2023 was a contemplative year. So there, how was that? How was that?
That's
like, you're
I tell
like,
you what, that's an amazing answer. You know,
probably not the one you expected, but
what what did you learn from your dad? Just on that quickly, what's some things that you learned from him that you're gonna um,
oh,
bring with you for the rest of your life?
my goodness. My dad is a really interesting guy. He's an American Baptist preacher, right? So I grew up a preacher's kid. And he, I grew up in the turbulent 1960s and 70s. And my father was, a civil rights activist. And my father then later in his life and career as a pastor, became a gay rights activist. And that's not common in the church, right? I mean, it's becoming more and more common, but certainly back then it was not. Um, and so he faced a lot of pushback and a lot of controversy, and ultimately he was kicked out of his denomination, and he carried on, you know, and he kept at what he believed in, and he stayed true to it. And I think the biggest thing he taught me was really to stay true to your beliefs and do good in the world, you know, and realize that a lot of people aren't going to agree with you. A lot of people, you know, you may make some enemies, but you'll make a lot of friends along the way too, you know. So I think perseverance and staying true to what you know to be true. And really, you know, in the midst of all of that, in the midst of all of that sort of political activism, if you will, my dad just loved people. That was really it. And I think that that is the thing that's sort of my mantra, if you will, through life is that, you know, my only job on the planet really is to love the people that I encounter, you know, and to see them for who they are, particularly when they're different than I am, and and just see people, you know, see them, you know. So I think that's what I take with me. My dad was a good guy. He was also a pill, you know. He was like he was exasperating, you know. He was a lot. It was a lot to handle, but those are all the things that fall away, you know, after someone dies. It's like you all of those difficulties just seem so insignificant, you know,
Mm.
when you really you're left with all of the good things. At least in my case, I know a lot of people have very different relationships with their parents, you know, but in my case, that is what I, you know, am left with. So yeah.
Are you a philosophical person?
Yeah. Very, very much so. I mean, I went to school. I went to school. This is a long
For
time ago.
philosophy, right?
I yeah, I went back to school when I was 30, and I don't know, I thought maybe I'll become a nurse, you know, and then I was like, oh, I have to dissect creatures. I can't do that, you know. And so then I had this really great philosophy teacher when I was at a junior college in Santa Monica, California. And man, I was so fascinated and intrigued that I switched my major to philosophy. And then I transferred to UCLA and majored in philosophy. So, yes, I am a philosophical person.
Are you someone always seeking the meaning of life, sort of thing? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think yes, I am, you know, and what my purpose is in it. You know, I think wanting to make sure that I make good use of the time here, you know,
yeah.
knowing that it's limited, and yeah, and wanting to really, I think wanting to know my purpose, you know, what my purpose is here. So
Do you
yeah,
think you found your answer yet, or not yet?
yeah, I have. It's you know, took a while, but yeah, I had this sort of big epiphany in my late 30s, early 40s. Just as I said, you know, previously, I think that my purpose on the planet is to love.
Love. Yeah.
That's my purpose. And that sounds so lofty, and it sounds so, oh, isn't that just butterflies and rainbows and all those things? But loving people is really hard. It's particularly when people are not easy. And so it's a challenge, you know. It's very often a challenge. it's a challenge to love our siblings. It's a challenge to love our spouses, our and our children, when it's like, if you have kids, you have big dreams about your children, before they're even born. Like, what's my child going to be? And you imagine what their life is going to be based on what your life is, and based on what your spouse's life is, or, and then they're born and it's like, wow, you're different. You're not a little mini me. You're your own independent person, a mind of your own and a brain of your own and a body of your own. And and so the allowance of them to emerge, right, as themselves, and to allow their own individuality and all of that, is the task of parenting. But that's also the act of loving anyone, is to allow them to be who they are, and not to try to mold them or make them into what you think they should be, or what they should be, or how they should be doing something. Or it's a it requires a conscious effort, I think, to really love someone. So it does sound lofty, but it's it's not really. It's very down to earth. It's very grounding. It's very like day to day, minute by minute. So I do think that that's it. Um and I think people crave to be loved, I think, um and I think that that's what a lot of being in the limelight is. I think that's a lot of what our our desire for awards and acclaim and all that is, just like, see me, love me. And
Mm.
so I wrestled with all of that myself, about why do I act, and why do I want to step into certain roles and things like that, right? And wrestled with the disappointment that I did not have the career I thought I was going to have on camera and on stage and all those things, and really settled into this space of being very grateful for the work that I do, the work that I have, and how, what sort of a rarefied air I breathe in doing voiceover work and making a living at it. Like, oh my God, I couldn't feel more lucky, and grateful, and like, and I use this term and I truly mean it. I'm a blue collar actor. I'm not famous, and I'm not, I don't, I don't get offered roles, I get offered, requested auditions, and that's great, that's cool. But I'm not a famous person, and I'm good with that. Like, I like really settled into that, like, I love the career that I've had, and it's been very interesting and dynamic, and a roller coaster, and all those things. Um so I realized, along the way, like, that's what I wanted too. I felt like I had this sort of hole in my heart that needed to be filled by, the accolades of others. And I realized, no, it doesn't. It can never be filled by that, ever, ever, ever. Yeah, now I feel like I should pour myself a bottle of wine. or some tequila, like, really delve in. But yeah, that's what I came to. And it was an epiphany to me. It truly was like a lightning bolt, like, oh, you're never going to be satisfied by any fame or any award. So let that go. Like, stop pursuing that. That's not that's not worth pursuing, And I just sort of realized that what I was after was, um, really being loved. And then I realized, well, the way that you solve that problem is by loving other people. That's the way that happens. So, and then all of a sudden, like, miraculously, your heart gets filled, the hole that was in your heart is like, you know,
Well, that
so
that connects to this quote that
yeah,
I've seen you share. I'm going to make everything around me beautiful. That will be my life.
yes. That's on a little plaque in my
Beautiful quote.
kitchen. Yeah. Yeah, it is beautiful. It's very intentional, right?
Mm.
I'm gonna I'm gonna make my life the way I want it to be, you know. And um, beauty is, of course, always in the eye of the beholder, and what makes a life beautiful is very unique and individual to the person. So right below my little plaque in my kitchen is my espresso machine, which makes me so happy.
How many a day are you having?
Oh, this is my second latte. It's my second 2-shot latte. So that's about it.
That's about
Yeah.
it for the day.
Yeah, that's about it for the day. I might have one. I might have a I might have a couple shots of espresso around 4 p.m., depending upon what I have to do the rest of the day or into the evening.
If
But
you didn't have
yeah,
anything, if you cut it off, would you be miserable? Like,
for a few days, I would be. I would have a massive headache, and
yes,
I'd
yes.
be cranky and
Mm.
like I would not be loving people very much at all. I'd be hating humankind, I think, for a few days. And I've done that before.
Oh,
I've
really?
gone off of coffee before. Yeah. And yeah, I didn't like that so much. So yeah, but I love the taste of it. I love it. So
So
yeah.
tell me, what's it like playing the United States, the president of the United States? What's that feeling like?
It was so fun, I have to say. That was such a fun role. And that's an example of, I had worked with the voice director previously on another project, which never came to fruition. And he brought me into audition for this role, which was great. And I was already living in Nashville. I've only been here for like a little under 2.5 years.
Mm.
I just loved it, from the audition onward. It's really doing video games is so wild because there was nobody in the room with me. I'm not interacting with other actors. It's just me and the director who's telling me about the specific scene, and giving me just enough information so that I can carry on, with the role. And so you're kind of acting in the dark in a certain sense, at least when you're doing that remotely. I think there are lots of people are doing performance capture and motion capture these days.
You're not
And so
hearing
they're
anyone
much
back
more,
at all during those.
no, oh no,
Really?
no, no.
Wow.
Everything is, I'm just given this lines in an Excel spreadsheet that's on a screen in front of me. And we just move from line to line to line. And the director, in this case, Pierce O'Toole, who's just a great voice director and so respectful, of actors, of voice actors, and the fact that we're using our voices and that we have our limits, and
Mm.
he's so good. But he's just directing me. He's saying, here's what this person is saying to you right now, or here's what you're reacting to. Here's what's going on. And so then it's up to me and my imagination to create that in my head, and act as if, that's the
Maybe because the other actors in Phantom Liberty did. I know they were able to hear some voice lines, so maybe that's because you were the first cab off the rank. Because we do meet you quite
you
early
know
in the DLC.
they
Yeah.
they they did have every once in a while they would have a line or two, if but it wasn't, but most often it was not that. you know.
Mm.
And every once in a while they would show me the scene as it had been created up to that point. So it was rough, you know, it was a rough kind of scene. So it was like, here's where you are, you know, and you go, okay, so I'm in this broken down warehouse and this giant monster thing is, you know, coming after me, you know, like, okay, got it. But it's not, you're not immersed, right? As you're doing the lines, you're really moving from line to line, you know. And it's interesting the things that that actors take with them. Everybody's different, right, as to how they work internally. But I'm a huge Star Trek fan, right? And and my favorite of the franchise is Star Trek Voyager. And so I'm a huge fan of Captain Janeway, right? And Kate Mulgrew and her performance and all of that. And she's the sort of image I had in my head, you know, of
Oh,
like
yeah.
you know, like a benevolent captain who can,
Bit of a
you know,
badass. Yeah.
yeah, it was badass and who can be sensitive and kind, but can also, you know, fire when ready, you know, like um so she's kind of the image that I carried in my head right from the start. And I didn't even intend it. It's like, you know, it just appeared. She just appeared. You know, I suppose it's because you know, I watch it virtually every day. So how could she not be in my brain, you know, but I loved it. And I loved the complexity of the character, right? That you can't tell at certain points in the story, like, is she a good person or she's not a good person? Like, what, like, is she like every other politician? Yeah, no, yeah, no. I mean, and I love that. I mean, I love those types of characters, you know, which is what Anna in Rise of the Tomb Raider was to me as well, right? This character of, she's definitely, you know, on the side of, you know, the bad guys, but she's dying of cancer. It's like she's desperate. Of course she's behaving like this. She's afraid, you know. And so it just makes the character that much more, for me, at least internally, right? More sympathetic. And I think the more sympathetically you play you know, a a a, a malevolent character, you know, the more interesting it is for the viewer, you know. Um,
So,
you're not playing stereotypes, right? So
no. So you're never thinking she's a villain. That's
no,
never
no,
crossing your mind at all.
never.
No. It's so well written. Phantom Liberty, I mean.
Uh, oh, it is so well written.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I That's the thing, right? And that's why these types of roles, they don't come around all that often, you know. And so when you get one, it's like, you know, how did I get so lucky, you know, to be able to play the role? I mean, yeah, it was really fun. I I enjoyed every piece of it. I enjoyed every session. Um, I enjoy the collaborative process of it, you know, and I'm amazed by what game creators do. Like, I don't even know how they do that, you know. So um, I think that's probably my favorite part of it, is that you know, you stand behind a microphone and you record some stuff, and then when you see how it's all been placed, and it's amazing to me. Like, I watched that there's somebody on YouTube
Put all the scenes
put
together.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, it's like 45 minutes of
Oh,
all of my scenes, right? And so when I got to see the sort of the battle between the, you know, the big monster machine When
Great
I got to
scene.
watch that,
Yeah.
I was like, wow, like that, you know, and here's what it points to, right? It points to the director, Pierce's ability to direct me into that kind of heightened place, right? To where I watched that thing and I totally believed me. Like, like, and yet none of that was happening in front of me. I wasn't
I hope not.
witnessing it. You know what I'm saying? It's not even,
Yeah.
I'm probably stating like the obvious for all on camera actors. They're like, yeah, okay, it's all make believe. Like, we're not actually, battling Martians. That's not really happening. But it's just,
Uh,
I guess I take my sensibilities from having just been on stage. I really haven't done a lot of on camera work, but I've done, I've done things on stage. And so where people are live, you're live with the person and you're all pretending together. But here there's studio and, on Music Row in Nashville it's just me and Pierce. So then to see it all come together, is remarkable to me. So
and when you see you playing off Idris Elba in these
mhm.
intense scenes, and you're upping him. I mean, you're holding your own. I mean, he's intimidated of you, kind of.
He's formidable. Yes. I had no idea that he was in this video game until it came out. No idea. Same with Keanu Reeves. No idea. I was like, what? Huh? That was kind of wild. Yeah.
Man, is
Yeah.
it weird for you to think that they may have heard your voice when they were recording?
No, I never really have thought about it. I never did think about it. I guess it's all part of the deal. And I think I'm accustomed because I've done voiceover for so long and I've had commercials on broadcast television for so long, for so many years, and you realize that I might have, if I meet someone and they say, what do you do? And I say, I'm a voice actor. And they go, oh, have I heard you on anything? And before I started doing video games, I'd be like, well, I'm sure you have heard me. I'm sure you had, because I've had, car commercials running on Super Bowl Sunday, so I'm sure you have, but I couldn't possibly begin to know what you've heard. And I think that's just true of every voice actor who's been at it for a long time. And I've been at it for a long time. So I think I'm acclimated to the idea that people hear my voice um and
Yeah, you're used to it by now. I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm just accustomed to it. But it's it's fun. I mean, I'd love to go to a con where the cast of, Phantom Liberty was invited, and I'd love to sit on a panel with them. That would be fun.
Oh,
That would be a
that'd be
total
fantastic.
thrill,
Yeah.
you know. I haven't figured that out yet, but any convention people out there, please, by all means, I'm willing and available.
Have you done many cons?
No, no, not many.
Wow.
I might have one coming up in March, and I might have one coming up in August. And those are sort of Star Trek specific, you know.
Yeah, because
Um,
you play the
so
computer voice, is it?
yeah, the voice of the Starship La Serena. Yeah.
So you're winning one back against the AI for us.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's
Uh,
actually my voice. Yeah.
yeah.
Not an AI of my
Yeah,
voice, but
exactly.
that was a total thrill to get that role because I'm a huge Star Trek fan and it
Oh,
was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like I can't, like pinch me. Um, that was really fun. Really, really fun. So, and such strange circumstances, I recorded most of that. Well, the second season
COVID.
I recorded, yeah, I recorded from home again, right? Like the first season I went in to the studio and was with the engineer and I got to see the scenes and know where I was and sort of be amidst the dialogue and all of that, which was fun, was super fun. Um, and then COVID um, and I recorded from home, and then I moved. Since I was recording from home, I knew that they would record from home. So that's when I decided I could move, because I was like, I'm not leaving Los Angeles if if it meant that I would have to give up that role. I I would not do it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't do it.
Oh,
So yeah, it's fun.
congratulations on that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such a, it's in terms of the recording of it, the recording piece of it, it's probably one of the easiest jobs I've ever had, but the thrill of it, the thrill to be involved in it, that was like, it just it just felt like a gift, dropped down from the heavens, because there are a million women who could have done that role. Okay, I exaggerate. 10. There are plenty of female voice actors who could have done that role, hands down.
But
And
you
so
were
it just
you were the
felt like,
one that meant to be.
I guess so. I was such a big fan again of Majel Barrett, and so there's her voice in my head, and I'm like, well, she's the gold standard, so um, sort of have to follow in those footsteps, which is awesome.
So when you see Myers, do you see yourself when you watch that back? Do you see yourself in that character?
For sure, yeah. I'm kind of a mild mannered person, uh, but I have a badass lurking. And I feel like that character, I mean, I think this is what actors love about being actors, right? Is that you get to bring forward certain parts of your own personality, your own human capacity for things, right? We're all capable of good and evil. Like, that's just true about every human being. And we temper ourselves, and we learn how to, live amongst each other and uh and be decent.
I don't
And
think you're
so,
capable of that sort of evil, though.
well, no, actually, I think we all are. It's just that we learn to be good, we do. And then all the parts that are, bad about us, they fall way, 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 way back and into the recesses of our psyches. Um, but I think that's what's fun about being an actor, is that you get to, um, as you get to explore all the facets of humanity. So yeah, I could see myself in Rosalind Myers. Yeah, yeah.
We've got a few fan questions here that some people have sent through. How do you
Sweet.
stay so motivated and patient?
I think when I started out in voiceover, long time ago, 1985, I was so happy to have gotten an agent pretty much right out of the gate, that felt like everything felt like a win, right? So
Mm.
if I just got an audition, I was like, I am so thrilled to have an audition. And I never thought about whether I would book it or not. I assumed that I would not. I didn't assume that I would book it. And I think if I assumed that I would book it, I would be disappointed at every turn. I mean, we, back in the day, if you will, when voiceover was very strictly kind of Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, like that's where all the work happened. And there are exceptions to that. Wherever there was a major advertising city, you would also have commercial voice actors. So, um, but back in the day in Los Angeles, in that market, if I went out on an audition, I was reading against maybe 9 other women. So there were 10 of us. And so your odds were 1 in 10, which was great. And you knew everybody in the room could do the job. Like that was not in question, right? And so it all just felt like, whose turn is it today, to book the job? And over the years, when the internet came into play and home studios came into play and voiceover went from kind of being this great underground actor's secret, that you could earn a living doing this kind of work and nobody would recognize you. It's perfect for an introvert, right? Like I am. And like nobody would recognize you you're still a member of the union and you get all the benefits of all of that. And um, all of that shifted with the advent of the internet and home studios and all of that. Now everybody was like, what's that job? I want to do that. I could do that, right? And there are lots of people who could. Like talent is not relegated to the coasts. It's everywhere, So so um so it used to be 1 in 10, really, kind of in there. And now it's like maybe 1 in 100. It's a lot harder to book work. But to really drill down on the answer to this question, I count the audition as the work. That's what it is. My job is to audition and to turn in really good work. And if I book the thing, that is the icing on the cake, right? It's also a paycheck, right? But it's the icing on the cake in terms of my, psychologically, it's the opportunity that I get to read that is really my job. That's my job. And so I get auditions every day. And so in a way, patience is not necessarily required if I view it that way. If I viewed it as like, oh my God, I'm only booking 1 in 100 things, like that's a really different mindset and really hard to overcome, because then it feels like you're being, rejected 99 out of 100 times. And that, I think, is not sustainable. And I think that that's why people quit, because they have a mindset that says every time I don't book something, I have failed. And that is not true. It's not true, you know? Um, so I don't know if it's patience that is engaged in me, right? I just enjoy auditioning, and auditioning is fruitful. It's fruitful to other roles. I did a role for, I played the role of Bellrock in Guillermo del Toro's Wizards, the troll hunters. And I booked that because of an audition I did for something else entirely different a year prior. And the casting folks at DreamWorks were like, that's a great audition. It's not right for this role, but that's great.
You. Yeah.
Great character. So they saved the audition. They actually saved it.
Well, that's
and
flattering.
Then they played it. Right? Yeah. I think this is a piece of casting that most actors aren't in voiceover, like aren't aware of, right? So she saved the audition and then played it for Guillermo del Toro. And he was like, yeah, let's bring her in, right? So they brought me in to read with this other actor. We shared the role. And it was like, great, you have the job, And so you never know what comes of your auditioning. And that's why it's the primary thing is to audition well. That's my job. That's my job, and everything else is I have no control over anything else. Nothing. So, and I think too, because I work in different genres, in commercial and promo and narration and video games and animation and live announcing, it's always interesting. None of those things are the same. They require very different things, so I never get bored. I never get bored. So,
Great answer, man. You're on today. Myers is a political shark and a cunning snake, but holy shit, is she a badass? Not really a question, but there you go. The hardest scene or moment to act in Phantom Liberty?
I think the scene with I always pronounce this word wrong. Is it chimera? Is that how you say
Yeah,
that word?
yeah.
Okay. That I think is the hardest. It's vocally taxing, right? To yell, scream.
Oh, yeah.
That's hard, and keep a heightened sense of danger, And again, I have to point this toward the director, because he and again, it's collaborative, right? I think he could do this because he trusted me, um but a lot of directors, when their efforts and screaming and dying by fire and sword and gunshot and like
Yeah.
all the things, right? A lot of directors will be like, okay, so we're going to do 3 or 4 takes, and then we'll listen, and then you can do it again, and then and then we're going to just let you run until we hear the one we want. And it's like, that's it's so destructive to your voice. It's so taxing, right? And Pierce was like, we're going to do 1 take, and if that's the take, we'll move on, right? And so that's how we worked. And in those effort scenes, right, which that whole segment was just efforts, it was just screaming and yelling and all that. And so that was the most challenging, right? Because my voice isn't really built for screaming. Everybody's vocal
It's
cords
built for
are
singing.
different. It's built for singing. It's not built for screaming. So that was the hardest scene, I would say,
Yeah.
you know. Uh, but I was moved really beautifully through it by Pierce, by the director. So
That reminds me of The Last of Us. What do you remember about doing the Seraphite? Is that what they're called?
yeah,
Those
yeah.
whistling enemies. I remember they all had different names, and that
Yeah.
was a cool little role. I know it was only small, but great game.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, it is a great game, and I don't actually, I haven't played it. I'm not a video. I don't play, right? My daughter sometimes does, but she's not. She doesn't like violent games, So
Yeah,
she didn't play The Last of Us 2 is the one I was in, but
yeah. You're in a
so
lot of
that
violent games. Sorry to cut you off.
yeah, I know, right? It's so true. Um, for the virtual pacifist, right? Like, so that was really interesting because I worked on that game longer than any other game that I have worked on, and
Really?
yes, and had more
Wow.
sessions than any other game. I probably did 20 to 25 sessions on that.
More than Phantom.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Because yeah, the Seraphites, the way they cast these different factions, was they had there was like a group of four of us that, like, they teamed us in groups of 4, I want to say, right?
Yeah.
And so we were reading, all of us were reading all the parts, because you never would know who you'd run into depending upon how you play the game, and you know, there was so many options and angles and like directions that you could go while playing the game. Um, and so I learned a lot on that game, and I was taught a lot by example, um, by Julie Nathanson, who I did all my sessions with Julie, all of them. We did them together, right? And
Wow.
so we were reading all of the same lines, and we would take turns, right? And so in the beginning, and for most of the sessions, I want to say, she always went first, right? It was one of the first games that I did that I, you know, where the lines were sort of generic, if you will, right? And not specific to any one individual, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they were almost all of it was efforts, almost all of it, so for 2 years. And so Julie, she would do her thing. And then I'm a pretty good, mimic, right? So I'm just like, all right, I'm going to do what she did in terms of the pacing of the thing. And I mean, my voice is my voice and my interpretation is mine, but I just mean like, I'll do it like she's doing it,
Mm.
you know?
Mm.
And so I would do my lines and all these things. And I was hyperventilating. I mean, truly, I was like, I would have to stop and sort of hold on to the chair, because I was like, and she, on a break, she said to me, your breathing rhythm is different than mine. You don't have to move as fast as I'm moving. She goes, it's just how I breathe. You breathe differently. So don't be afraid to take your time to do the lines as you would do them. You don't have to do it at my pace. And it was like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, and I sort of settled into my way of doing the role and doing the lines, but she taught me a lot just by watching her, just by osmosis. And
She's fantastic. Yeah. We've had her on the show.
she's
Yeah.
yeah, she's great and very talented. And so I'm, kind of forever grateful to her for that. But that was rough. That was a rough video game
Would you do that
for me
again,
to be
something
in.
like that, or you wouldn't do that? No.
No, it took me probably 9 months before I could sing again after that.
Oh no, really?
Like I could speak, but my voice was different. It had more texture. It was because it was trashed. My voice was trashed. And uh and then I think the thing that where I decided, like, as much as I love that work, I can't sacrifice my vocal cords to it. Like, I can't do it. And and there are people who teach you how to do efforts and teach you how to scream and all of those things. And if I were younger and perhaps just starting, I might avail myself of those kinds of things, and really learn how to do that and not destroy my voice. Um, but I'm just I'm of a particular age and mindset where I go, I'm good. Like, I think I can I think I
Content.
can
Yeah.
yeah, like I can choose the roles that I want to do, that, like, and Rosalind Myers is a perfect example. Perfect example. Like, I feel like I was built for that role.
Yeah.
And there were efforts, right? And so again, like, working with a director who knew how to direct me specifically in that kind of a scene, it is everything. It's everything, you know. Um, so
But I feel like there
I'll let the youngsters do all the efforts, you know.
I feel like there will be efforts in a lot of the video game roles you do, but it's just
Yeah.
the amount, I guess, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And playing a Seraphite in The Last of Us 2
Yeah. Not ideal for
is,
that.
yeah, is like 99% efforts, And who knew? I didn't know. I'm so glad that I did the role. Like I'm
Oh, it
really
was phenomenal
glad.
work. Let me tell you that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, good good game. But I much prefer roles
Yeah.
like Rosalind Myers. So
Do you think
yeah.
Myers' actions overall in Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty towards Songbird can be justified?
Speaking from my vantage point, I wouldn't treat a person as such, you know. Rosalind Myers is a politician. People are expendable in the name of the cause. And that's true of the good guys and it's true of the bad guys, you know, in terms of politicians, you know, the people that we perceive as being the good politicians, you know, it's like they are as ruthless as the ones that we perceive as being bad. So me personally, no, but Rosalind Myers, of course. Like that's just how it is, you know. That's just it's the nature of the game. So
If if this was it for your portrayal as Myers, would you be satisfied, or do you think there's still a lot left to give?
oh, I have a lot more in me. You
Yeah,
know,
I thought
I have a
so.
lot more in me. You know,
Because she's not dead in the world.
no,
No.
she's not. That's super curious. That's a super curious thing. Would I like to reprise that role? Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be fantastic. You know, and I'd like to do others too. You know, like I want to work and just I want to be like my dad. I want to work until it's time for me to leave the planet. You know, I don't I don't see an end. I see a slowing down, right? Of being a little bit more particular about what I might choose. Again, not because I've attained some level where I, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
whereby privilege I get to do that, but it's just because I want to plant tomatoes, you know, and I want to raise some chickens. You know, like I want to do some other interesting things, right? But I love working and I
yeah.
love what I do. So I hope to do it as long as people will have me.
And you're
You know?
still doing mentoring and helping other actors out.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
am. Yeah, yeah, which is really fun. Like I really enjoy that a lot. It's 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 fun to see um, new and aspiring voice actors kind of blossom, you know, and find pieces of success and experience that and keep moving and keep striving. And it's that's very rewarding to me to have even just been a little bit of encouragement, you know, to
mm.
someone is really that's very satisfying. So
And you're still pursuing your music, because I was listening to "Hard on Yourself" and
oh my
great
goodness.
song.
Where did you find that? Did you on SoundCloud or
I was on Spotify, I think. Yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I put up all the music that I've done on Spotify so I wouldn't lose it. Like where is
Well, was
that
I
song?
not
Oh,
supposed
I
to
think I
find
put
it? It's a great song.
I know. Thank you. Oh my God. It's that is another life. It's another lifetime ago.
How
I
long ago was
don't
that
really.
song?
Oh,
Are we talking years and
I wrote
years?
we're talking decades.
Oh wow,
I think I wrote that in like 1990.
wow, it holds up.
Thank you.
We need a
Thank you.
remaster.
Thank you. Oh, that is true. Like every recording I've ever done, I have not been satisfied with. So who knows? Perhaps I do threaten to, you know, make another record, um, just for my own sake of singing songs that I have always wanted to sing, you know,
Yeah.
or or a Christmas record or a holiday record of some kind, which would
Oh,
really be
Christmas. That
fun,
sounds great.
right? I know
Yeah.
there's so many good Christmas songs out there. Um, but I don't really do much music anymore. I don't really do it. And it's funny. I moved to Nashville and I don't do music. Um,
What did you fall out of love with it? You do you not have time? What's the reasoning?
no, no. Um, I think I got really I got really immersed in working and doing voiceover.
Yeah.
And I really focused my energy on that. And at some point when I realized I was going to focus my career on voiceover, I really sort of stopped investing in doing music. And um
Yeah.
and that was all okay, right? I have been a songwriter. I'm I am a writer, right? So I write a blog, I write poetry, I I write a blog for my voiceover coaching business, you know. So I get to write, you know, I continue to write, which is very fulfilling. And um and I just fell out of singing. And so you know, I sing in the kitchen. Yeah. That's and in the car, you know. But I will say, it has been frustrating and a struggle to. I never really fully got my voice back after doing The Last of Us 2. So my voice is very different. Like I don't have the high end that I used to have. But that also comes with aging. You know, I used to do this. I used to I used to play out and sing, and I covered a Joni Mitchell song. Um, called Carrie. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but it's on a record called Blue, and it's from the 1970s, early 1970s, and and so I used to sing this song off of that record called Carrie, and and I was you know I was sort of complaining to a friend of mine like, oh, I can't sing that song anymore. It's so disappointed. My voice, you know, I'm so disappointed. Like I've tried, like I wish I could, and I'm blah blah blah. And my friend turned to me and said, "Yeah, Joni Mitchell can't sing that song anymore either. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like don't be so hard on yourself. You know, to
Mhm.
quote my own lyric. But like I realized, oh yeah, well our voices change. You know, our voices change, and they do. And so I haven't really delved into finding out what my voice is really like at this age, at this
Yeah.
time, what kind of music I would do now, and I think it would just be different, you know. So,
Yeah.
so it's something to think about. So,
Thank you for taking some time. We really appreciate it. Is there anything you wanted to say to the fans of your work or Phantom Liberty or anything that you've been a part of?
well, I thank you for being a fan. You know, I that's is very humbling, and when I get mentioned on a tweet or sometimes I get sent fan mail and requests for autographs, and I am so moved by that, you know, that you would think enough of the work that I do that you would want a little piece of that is really so lovely, and I'm just very grateful for it, and you know, and I hope that you'll keep in touch. You know, I'm on Twitter. I'm sort of a lurker on Twitter,
Insta?
but in fact, I'm on Instagram. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are you on
And
TikTok or you were?
you know, I just came off of TikTok. I just sort of realized like I can't spread myself too thin on
Yeah.
social media. Um or I just like
On
my
it too
life
much. Yeah.
falls apart, you know. So I sort of chose like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to invest my time there, you know, and I'm rather going to invest my time on Instagram and then also on LinkedIn. But I know that that's more of a coaching and
Business.
business
Yeah.
spot, you know, for me. So it's really Instagram, and I'm on Facebook, but I know that that's not, you know, that's for old
How
people.
do you find LinkedIn?
Um, I just started to become a little bit more active there,
Okay.
um, in an effort to kind of promote my coaching business.
Mm.
Um, and I it's been good. I mean, I'm surprised by the engagement and interaction that I've had. Just the couple things I've posted some articles. I'm starting to post articles there. So
Yeah.
so again, that's fun because I get to write, and do all of that. That engage that particular challenge. So it's good. It's good, and it is mostly for my colleagues, right? Other voice actors and stuff like that. So, but it's good. It's definitely a different platform. So, but again, just to put a button in that, I just want to, like, I'm just really grateful for people paying attention, to what I'm doing and appreciating it and letting me know that that's really that, if the job is the icing on the cake, that's the cherry on top. That's deluxe,
Well,
so.
I tell you what, you transported me. I remember as Rosalind Myers, just before heading to bed in the game, and you're looking out to the rainy world, and we're having this one-on-one chat, and it's just so immersive, and you're just so in the character, and it's just brilliant.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, truly. So,
is there before I let you go, is it possible that Rosalind Myers can talk to Dan or say something to Dan to round this one out?
oh my goodness, it's so funny. I'm so bad at this. It's one of the things I've learned. One of the things that I've learned in my life as a voice actor, that I look at a script and then I leave and I don't remember anything that I've said. Like I will have done jobs where I'll hear it back or I'll audition for something and I'll get a call like, "Hey, you booked that thing." And I'm like, "What was that thing? What did I do?" And they'll send me the audition and I'll be like, "Wow, I don't even remember recording that." So, unless you want to feed me a line,
Well, you could just say, Dan, you're a beautiful man or something. I don't know.
Dan, you're a beautiful man. Don't let it get to your head.
Yeah, I needed that last part. Thank you. Okay, we really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.